For the first time since World War II, no U.S. aircraft carriers are deployed anywhere in the world. How united Iran, Russia, and China are resetting the global stage. But first, Secretary of State John Kerry's farewell stab to Israel. Maury, a lot of people may not really exactly understand what was going on with that UN vote, our abstainment. Would you set the stage and explain exactly what the Americans did or didn't do and what John Kerry said last week?
What happened was that John Kerry, former senator from the state of Massachusetts, also the losing nominee in the second term of George W. Bush, and a man who hates himself as much as he hates other people. His father, Jewish, committed suicide. His brother still keeps the family name, which is Cohen, and he is ashamed, I guess, of being Jewish and used an Irish name in order to cover up that fact.
Well, that works well in Massachusetts.
Yeah, of course. So John Kerry felt that he tried this negotiation thing with the Palestinians. It went nowhere because the Palestinians are out to kill every Jew that they can get, and they make it very...
It's in their constitution.
It's in their constitution. They teach it to their children, and there is no chance that Israel will ever accept that, because that's like accepting your own demise. So the thing is, he talked to his boss, Obama, and Obama had a grudge against Bibi Netanyahu, who is a fabulous orator and is very popular with Americans, not only more with non-Jewish Americans than he is with Jewish Americans, frankly. The evangelicals think he's the greatest thing that ever was. And Obama hated him because he felt that he wasn't going to play his game. So he realized after the election on November 8th, when Trump became the winner, he knew there was only a matter of a few weeks where he could do some damage. And
well, let me just jump in here real quick. He likes to talk about other countries and other leaders getting involved in foreign politics, like here at home, the Russians and whatnot. He specifically tried to oust Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yes, absolutely. But, you know, trying to make somebody, if a man is a thief, you try to make a thief honest, you can't do it. That's my parallel.
Yeah.
He hated Netanyahu. He was in a church where the minister, a black man, just excoriated the Jewish people.
Reverend Wright.
Reverend Wright hated the Jews.
How about Farrakhan?
And Farrakhan, right. I would say there is no proof that Obama personally is anti-Semitic. However, he did want to see that he, the great Obama, was able to solve the problem between the Palestinians and the Israelis, which is an unsolvable problem. And I say this because if anybody looks at a map, you see Israel is a country the size of New Jersey, and you carve out what they used to call in ancient Israel, Judea and Samaria. You would take it right out of the middle of the country. The airport, Ben Gurion Airport, would be taken out. The Hadassah Hospital would be taken out, and of course, the Holy Wall of the ancient temple would be taken out and given to the so-called Palestinians, who themselves are a phony operation, because people that came from Syria, they came from Lebanon, they came from Saudi Arabia. There's no such thing as Palestinians.
So let's get to the UN vote. They're voting on settlements, which is basically neighborhoods, and carving out Jerusalem. So explain what we did or did not do in that UN vote that really stabbed them in the back.
In previous votes over the years, it has come before the United Nations to exorcise Israel for building not only neighborhoods but villages and actually settlements on what should be considered contested territory. This time, Obama gave the order, we will abstain, which meant that the other countries, the 14 countries that make up the Security Council, voted for punishment of Israel for building on contested territory where 650,000 people already live, and additional construction was being held up temporarily but started again. So Obama very cleverly used New Zealand, Malaysia, bankrupt Venezuela. And he said, after Trump had already intervened prior to this, and this goes back just a few weeks, and had asked Egypt, which was supposed to bring this punishment of Israel before the Security Council, and convinced them to hold back and wait until he became president. So Obama went one step further and got these little countries to come together.
And we have veto power to stop the whole thing.
Oh, of course. Russia, China, France, England, and the United States have veto power over anything that comes through the Security Council. Oh, sure. And we have used that by both parties that were in power over the decades, that they would not accept a basic litigation against Israel if they wouldn't stop building.
So is it going to go anywhere, or is it just a slap with Obama going out the door?
I think Obama has tried everything in order to hurt Israel through hurting Netanyahu. And it's similar to the fact that he did something unbelievable, kicking out 35, 40 diplomats from Russia, which at other times would have been considered a declaration of war. You know, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7th, we gave the diplomats the same thing, 72 hours to get out of the country because we wanted them out. So he was accusing the Russians for the loss of the election by the Democrats.
Which is ridiculous, hasn't been proven.
Of course.
Moving on, Iran, China, and Russia are now aligning in a big way. We also have a situation where not one U.S. naval carrier is anywhere in the world at a pretty serious time in the Middle East, South China Sea. The Chinese have their own carrier. They're on the move.
That's right. China, by the way, China is spending 5 times as much on their military development as we are today.
Which should concern people.
Yeah, I would think so.
And they just took their carrier and started patrolling outside of Taiwan.
By the way, I'm not arguing with you on this point. I'm not worried about China joining Russia. I mean, they have a deal on oil, but the Chinese never liked the Russians. It's a marriage of convenience.
And now there's an Iranian.
Well, the Iranians are under the thumb of the Russians because the Iranians now are taking their direction from the Russians as a senior partner. That I believe. And Hezbollah, which came out of Lebanon, is a terrorist group that is doing the bidding of Iran and also being accepted by Russia.
We can't get out of the way fast enough for this administration.
But you made one point I want to comment on that. You made a very important point about the aircraft carriers. The aircraft carriers we had at the beginning of the Second War saved us from the Japanese crushing us in the Pacific, because when they stabbed us in the back and bombed Pearl Harbor, 3 American aircraft carriers were out to sea, which the Japanese weren't aware of. And that's what saved us from not having any aircraft carriers to fight off it was bad enough the Japanese went as far as they did, but if it weren't for aircraft carriers, we might have been wiped out in the Pacific totally at that point.
It's a scary time. We need to take a quick break. We'll be back with our Homeland Security, Political Insider, and the Moment in History. Our quote of the day: how fortunate for governments that people they administer do not think. You know what that was?
Yeah, Adolf Hitler.
We'll be right back.